My favorite kind of fish to catch, I think, it's gotta be largemouth bass. They come in a really good size range, and when you're fishing for them, you always know when you've got one because they hit those things boom fast, hard. You know when you've got one. They always put up a good fight, and it's always an exhilarating rush when you get a good bass in.
My favorite kind of fish to catch is definitely the bass because you can catch it more often. They're in a lot of different spaces. They're usually go after a lot of different kinds of baits and lures. Bass is a really good starter and end game fish to fish for.
Well, I definitely started fishing heavily when I moved to Indiana, which was in about 8th grade, I think. Into 7th grade, right at the beginning of 8th grade. And I lived in Indiana for 2 years, and I fished almost every day for the fullness of those 2 years. But before that, I fished a little bit. I didn't do a whole lot then. So, I mean, if I want to, sum it all up, I've probably been fishing for somewhere between 5 to 10 years.
I've fished a while for a young age, and then I took a long period of gap where I didn't fish, and then now I've probably been fishing for a year or so, probably past, but it was probably like 6-7 years when I was younger, and then 1 year now.
What you do is match your lures to the weather. Like I was saying earlier, what you need to do is if it's cloudy and the water's clear, then you want shiny natural colored things, and also if it's overcast, fish will eat better off of top water, but they'll eat off anything on overcast really.
If I fail to catch a fish, usually it's because of they're not biting the bait or they're not going after what you put on the line. That could be either you're doing something wrong, like you're reeling wrong, or they just could not be biting. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Other times they're already have filled up, or they're just not going after your bait or lure. Sometimes it's really hard to tell.
Some of the biggest mistakes you'd have to avoid when you get into fishing is you don't need to be coerced into getting the most expensive gear and the nicest things, all that kind of stuff. I mean, fish are very picky about what they'll eat, but at the same time, they're also not as picky as you'd think. I mean, there's lures out there you can get that are literally just a little metal spoon with a hook on it, and they'll bite those all day. So I guess what I would have to tell somebody coming into the fishing game is don't worry about getting the most expensive gear right off the bat. Just get what you can afford, a decent pole from Walmart, and a bait, just enough bait to match the different kinds of weather and water types.
Keep trying. It's difficult in the first part to try to learn different ways to cast and different lures to use, different baits to use. Try to get your cast down. Like you want to cast far and consistent, and sometimes you want to aim for a spot. Like you'll either aim under a tree or next to a log or something. If you can just start casting with no hook, like on dry land, you can get pretty good at casting. Mistakes to avoid would definitely be avoid dense foliage because that entangles a lot, and avoid using the same thing too often, because then if it's catching, then you're good. But if you're using the same thing every single time you fish and you don't catch anything, then obviously something's wrong. You got to change something.